Welcome back, everyone, to Blue Collar Startup. I'm your co-host, Mike Nelson, here with co-host and visionary founder, Derek Foster.
Hey, Mike, it feels good to be back.
I know. It's. I was actually speaking with our guest before the show that we'll introduce here in a second, but I kind of have like that Christmas hangover right now. I'm not actually hungover, but like, although I was. Christmas Eve party at the house got a little out of hand, but no, it's just been kind of tough getting back into work this week. So I've kind of been like dipping my toe in it every day. And our staff we gave them the week to kind of.
Yeah, it's a ghost town around here.
Yeah, they're all working remote. And we just told them,
nice.
like, if a client needs something, then please respond. If you want to work, have at it. If you want to not do anything, then that's fine too. So, it's like we were talking about before the show started. It's that week, or at least a few days after Christmas, like if you have the ability to spend a little extra time with family and not have to get right back into the grind, so it's been nice.
It's tough to get anything done this week, but we're pushing through.
How the kids must have been adorable for Christmas.
Great. Yeah. We got my daughter got all her Paw Patrol toys.
Oh my God,
Santa was good.
Bodie's huge into Paw Patrol right now.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
Oh,
man. It's amazing. They got games. They got
we got some
clothes, everything out.
My Kristen's sister got Bodie this like video game controller that like connects to your TV, and it's Paw Patrol. So now Bodie, he's 4, he's now being indoctrinated into the video games.
Yeah.
But I'll leave
how they get him hooked.
I'll leave my tinfoil hat off for now. But so I'm going to introduce our guest here in a second. But if this is your first time listening to the show, just to kind of give you a rundown, we are Blue Collar Startup. What we do, our mission is to empower and educate the next generation of blue collar business owners. And so each episode, we're interviewing blue collar business owners that they have done what you're trying to do. And so, hopefully they're going to be given some of those golden nuggets of advice and wisdom to help you on your path. In other cases, we are interviewing support organizations, right? So we had Seat in here. We've had BOCES on a few times. And that brings us to today. We're joined by the Associated General Contractors
of New York State.
And Brendan, are you the vice president? Is that your title?
One of my titles, there's multiple vice presidents, but I'm vice president of education and environment.
Okay.
AGC.
All right. And Brendan, I'm sorry because I'm terrible with names. Your last name is?
Manning.
Yep. Brendan Manning. You think I would have gotten that one? It wouldn't be a good show if I didn't.
No relation to any of the
Eli or Peyton or those guys?
Would have been great, but no.
So I got on the website, checked it out, but probably better that you explain a little bit more about what the AGC is and what you do and how you support contractors.
Sure. We are a chapter of the AGC of America, which is out of Washington, D.C. There are AGC chapters in every state across the country, including there's actually one in Canada, one in Puerto Rico, but we as a chapter cover statewide. We represent, for the most part, general contractors across New York, but we do have members that are subcontractors, associate members, which are attorneys, insurance agents, all representing the industry across. We represent both commercial building and heavy sill contractors. So locally, companies like D.A. Collins Construction on the highway side. Mm-hmm. Some of the building side members, MLB, which I know you've had on, BBL Construction, Turner Construction, Gilbane, all the companies that are covered, regionally and statewide. But we do everything from lobbying to, advocating on education and training, teaching courses and classes for project management. We advocate with public owners, private owners. We do a lot of work representing, for the most part, general contractors.
So, and that was something that was kind of interesting to see when I got on the website to learn a little bit more, because I am trying to be more proactive, everyone, of actually doing a little research before the shows. I heard that'll make us better interviewers. But on the lobbying side, like help us understand kind of like what is that? Like what do you mean by what? I mean, obviously, we know what lobbying is, but how does that affect like the DA Collins or your general contractors that you're working with? I mean,
from a lobbying standpoint, we're doing things obviously to be proactive for our members, but also reactive. There are a lot of bills and things that legislators put out there that are struggle. Of course, some of our safety things are that we're fine with, that we just have to follow suit. But we obviously lobby our legislators for obviously from the road and bridge side, we're looking for funding. We're looking for money. That's a big thing coming up with the New York State budget. We know that there's going to be kind of a shortfall coming up next year in the next couple of years. We've had a few years with some surplus, but we saw this large influx of infrastructure money come in from the federal government.
Yeah.
We're still trying to figure out where that is.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we run into situations where the money is starting to make its way in the state, but we're trying to figure out where exactly that money is.
Wow.
It's a struggle. Unfortunately,
I bet there's a bunch of taxpayers wondering the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everybody who drives that, you start to see how crappy the roads and bridges are, and things that you're running into.
And tolls keep going up.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. That's where the Thruway, unfortunately, is funded by those tolls, and that's what we have to do to continue to see it grow. And
it's interesting. I didn't even know that, and I don't pay attention because I have the Easy Pass on my dash. So whenever I drive anywhere, I don't even think about it. It's just getting taken out of our account. So
and it hasn't been increased hasn't been increased in years. It hasn't been touched because they said originally the whole idea behind this was that it was going to be phased out, and the taxpayers would fund it. Well, we have enough things that the taxpayers have to pay for to begin with, and we understand that. And a big struggle on the bridge and highway side is, of course, now that we fund the majority of this through the gas tax. Mm-hmm. So now we're sitting here listening as the state wants to go green and we want to go electric. Then how are we going to collect the gas tax?
Yeah.
If no one is buying gas, how do we fund the roads and bridges?
Yeah, there's a bunch of unintended consequences of some of that stuff that I've been reading about. That's very interesting.
Right. So we might have to turn into a situation where people are going to be billed. You go get your inspection done every year. Now you're going to get your mileage checked. Okay, you drove 14,300 miles. Here's your bill.
Wow, so stop it.
You might have to move that direction. If you're going to drive an electric car, you're not going to pay the gas tax. There's got to be another way to, because I don't know if anybody realizes this, but all these electric vehicles weigh more than
a lot more.
So
batteries are heavy.
It's putting wear and tear on these roads that people weren't expecting.
Another one of the unintended consequences I was reading about. Yeah.
So one thing just keeps, one thing after the next. We need to figure out how that's going to be covered. So those are some of the things that we do, trying to find better ways, better resources to help without throwing it on the backs of the taxpayers. We're trying to figure out a way. Well, we have to get it done, and it's if you want to continue, as we say, using the roads until we start flying around like the Jetsons, we're going to continue to need the roads and bridges. So. That's one of the things we do from a lobbying standpoint, lobbying legislators for funding.
Yeah.
But it's everything from advocating to try to advocate for hospitals, schools, everything else that's out there that our members would benefit from.
So, and when you say advocating to get those projects done, working to help get, so if St. Peter's is trying to put on an addition or build a new facility, that you guys will go in and kind of help to throw your support behind that.
We can do that. I mean, a lot of the private work is done totally separately. That's private funding. But there's consequences here now with when it comes to making sure that the state is going to pay prevailing wage on projects if there's any kind of public money involved at all. So an IDA is going to help give better financing or give money. So does that mean now it's got to go as a project labor agreement? It's going to be all union? How's that going to work? So there's things that we kind of work on a regular basis with the legislators to figure that out. But it's there's crazy bills that come across your desk that make no sense at all, which everybody runs into all the time.
Yeah.
And, the running joke is when legislators are off, they're home for the holidays. We're like, thank God they're gone. So it's kind of like they can't do any more damage. They're kind of.
Is that a joke or is that just a way of life these days?
So there are a lot of crazy bills that are out there that we have to, defend against, and then there's others that we have to propose. We want to try to advocate for, but there's a lot of different ways we go about lobbying from that standpoint. But that's just one of the little things that we do. We work with a lot of state offices, Department of Transportation, OGS, Dormitory Authority, State University Construction Fund. We work very closely with their staff as well, making sure that they find better ways to build. There's better methods and try to keep them up, because we can provide that national resource from AGC of America and provide resources from other states that sometimes they'll turn to us and say, what are they doing in Chicago? What are they doing in California? What are they doing that might be, advanced compared to what we're doing in New York. So
now, is a lot of that when you say showing them a better way to build, right? So is a lot of that just because of emerging technology and changes that we're seeing with whether it's tools or AI or any of the so much of it now I guess is it's computer driven. So is that what you're talking about? Where the changes?
That's a big part of it. Yeah, we will introduce a lot of the educational programs, BIM, building information modeling, using 3D modeling online on a computer to be able to do a walkthrough, show an owner a walkthrough of their building. But that's not only a big part of that from the digital standpoint, but looking at it from a standpoint of rolling out a project before you start to build, you realize, wait a minute, you can come up with flaws and errors in that design on a computer first before you get in the field. It's going to cost you $100,000 to fix it in the field. If you can find it on a computer first and say, well, let's fix this.
So it's
the beam, a pipe running through a beam, and if you can pick those things up, and the software a lot of times and AI is a big part of that now.
Yeah.
AI is going to pick it up and say, whoa, wait a minute, there's now a pipe sitting 6 inches too low. It's going to run through a beam. You can't do that. You got to figure out a way to go around or whatever. And if, again, it's a change order in the field.
Yeah.
Here, you can get it done on a computer and fix it before it gets out there. So
I'm like laughing in my head because all I'm thinking about is the stuff that I call construction that I do around the farm that anyone in construction would not call construction. I just laugh because I'm literally like building this chicken coop. And I actually did draw it out before I started building. I mean, it's a good sized coop. We'll call it a, what do they call it? A chicken mansion, but
a bird hotel.
A bird hotel. But as I've been going through, like I've had to change so many different things, and like, and I must have measured something incorrectly. Like I just think about all these little cob job things that I do, and I'm like, imagine that on like a large scale where you're out in the field, and all of a sudden you realize like, oh, this isn't going to work.
Right, and that's a big process. I mean, obviously that's why you've got estimators, you've got people that an estimator will come back to a designer and say, this isn't going to fly. This is going to, and that's a big part of obviously why we have to make sure we've got a great relationship with engineers and architects, because that's, you have an RFI, request for information, goes out to the architect saying, just this doesn't make sense. This wall is not going to work this way. And that's where you're starting to see more and more owners bring contractors in earlier rather than just turning to a designer and say, give us the design, come back, and then we're going to work with it. Contractors would tell you a lot. They're not getting complete plans. They're not seeing that. They have to kind of finish it, do as-builts as they're going along the process. And if an owner brings a contractor in early, it may save them a lot of time and money. So it's important. I mean, that's a part of educating owners.
Good advice.
As to why you want to get in early to try to do that. So.
Yeah, it's that whole big commercial game. It just is fascinating to me, like how they build these huge, like MLB with Skidmore and all these, it's crazy to me that people are able to do that. But I guess that's why they're smarter and they're not doing podcasts. So now, fortunately, you're not on the lobbying side, right? You're on the educational piece.
Correct.
So tell us more about that, because I thought it was when I started looking online, I was like, oh, that's really cool. I didn't realize that you guys did that or that was available.
Sure. Yeah, I do everything from the low level of trying to get parents engaged and students and trying to get them involved in thinking about construction careers from an early age. We as we say, we try to get to them by like 4th or 5th grade to get them to even just consider construction. By 5th grade, they're kind of deciding, they start eliminating careers as compared to deciding, I'm not going to be in 5th grade, you don't say, I'm going to be a doctor. Maybe you're going to learn that, but I think with time we try to introduce them to the idea that it's an important thing. So that's one stage that I do right up through middle school, high school, college students. We actually have 13 student chapters across the state of New York in colleges. So Hudson Valley Community College has an AGC student chapter.
Oh, no kidding.
So students will get together. It's an after class program, but it could be something where they get together, hear from an industry speaker, could be talking about a new technology, could be computers, it could be whatever they do, or we try to set them up to get job site visits. So MLB's got a site, they're going to grab that student chapter and get them out for a job site tour. Because, it only makes sense. You're not going to sit in a classroom and not introduce them to what's in the field. It doesn't make any sense in a book or on a computer. So we've got student chapters all across the state. In the city, Buffalo, Alfred, RIT, Clarkson, they all have AGC student chapters. We try to engage them into, hearing from speakers and things outside of the classroom. And they have officers. They create a little student club, basically. So that's one of the things I work on as well. And then, of course, continuing education for contractors. So project management skills. We do everything from we do a program called the STP program, Supervisory Training Program. And that's bringing field personnel, tradespeople that are moving into that foreman level, maybe from foreman to then move to superintendent. But it's a class that we run every Thursday night, actually at Eastern Contractors Association, the building 6-hour line drive.
Yeah.
Every Thursday night they come in. We usually have about 25 people from the field come in after hours, so from 6 to 8 every Thursday night in the fall through the spring. We know the summer, obviously they're super busy, so we don't get them in the summer. But so we run 3 different units of different educational programming on communications, on contracts, on the basics that they need to understand from a standpoint of being a foreman and reporting. So that's something we do. Then when they move into project management skills, and one of the other programs, which I mentioned, Construction Leadership Academy, is the next step, which is where project managers get to understand how their small little project affects the bottom line of their overall company. So they start to hear from insurance professionals, bonding professionals, issues on dispute resolution that they might run into with owners or with private, subcontractors. There could be issues. So that's a program that has been very successful that we do, again, statewide. So we try to continue to put that out there. People seem to like the programs and get good feedback and try to make sure we're leading the next educational group. And I've been with the AGC for 23 years, and we have some of the people that were in that very early class are now presidents of companies here in the capital region and across the state. So there's companies that we see.
How many of your members participate in that educational program?
I'd say overall for just the couple that I mentioned, I'd say probably only 35 to 40%. We try to get more and more firms engaged. And it's not to say the other programs that we run, which, we always frowned upon doing anything online before COVID, right? It was always like, oh, you got to have that face-to-face connection. Then you realize, wait a minute, there's some good programs you can do in an hour and a half and get them done, and everybody across the state can jump on at 8:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock, get an hour and a half of education done, and walk away. And those are good when it comes to issues that we have with new laws in New York, new issues they have to hear about, which we're always getting through new laws, whether it's everything just from sexual harassment training to all these things that we try to get attorneys out in front of people and get them educate their firms quickly if we can do that. So that seems to work out very well for most of our members. So
yeah, I would imagine it's got to be a good recruiting tool, for a company to be able to advertise and offer that they have these training programs and a career path. We talked with the guys from Boom Nation, and one of their points last week was they had to get some of the employers to meet the employees, meet the candidates halfway, right?
Sure.
And offering those programs, and you create that career path, and I would imagine that would spark, some good talent.
Yeah, we were actually. It was funny. We were one of the only chapters we jumped on. I have a boss that's actually a couple of years younger than I am, and he was immediately on board with Zoom. He knew Zoom early on and kind of jumped on it and got our staff involved immediately. And so everything that was rolling out with all the COVID issues and concerns that were out there, we would run a Zoom. We'd be working from home, of course, but we could run them on our computers and run a Zoom information. We did it to prospects. I think we were one of the only chapters in the country that didn't lose members. We actually gained members during COVID because we just rolled out ongoing, continuous Zoom calls for prospects and members. And they realized quickly that, wow, these guys can get some information out quickly, and it was important information. So we ended up getting more people that joined AGC for the information that we provide. So
I have so many questions now. And I would also like to just mention the amount of restraint that I'm exercising. He keeps bringing up stuff about New York State and the laws, and I'm not cracking any jokes, Derek.
That's good.
I just want you to be proud of me.
We'll save that for after the show.
Okay. So, as far as the benefit of like is the training a benefit of membership? Like do they pay for the individual training sessions?
They pay a fee. We keep it very low. We don't make a ton of profit on the educational programming because everybody who joins the AGC pays dues. It's a dues trade association. So we're nonprofit. We're not a not-for-profit. We're not Make-A-Wish, or we're not any of those programs. But we have a separate scholarship program, which is a foundation, which is totally separate from that. And that raises a ton of money. We give out close to $85,000 in scholarships every year.
Oh, that's amazing.
To students, and a lot of those AGC student chapters, the kids that need. Clarkson University is not an inexpensive program. It's got to be up to 70 by now, I think, a year to go to Clarkson. And but it turns out some of the best civil engineers we have in the state. it's a great program.
Yeah, they've got a great engineering program for sure.
So we have a ton of members and a lot of alumni of the program that are in the membership now. And I think one of the keys, I know MLB historically has always been part of Union College, was always all the MLB founding members all went to Union Civil Engineering program.
Oh, yeah.
Which my sister did, and they closed their program about 15 years ago. They decided it wasn't bringing in a lot of money to college, so they dropped the program. It was one of the oldest civil engineering programs in the entire country. Wow. Those engineers built the Erie Canal from Union College. They just decided, 2 years ago, they're going to bring the program back.
Oh, cool.
They see a huge need, obviously, between infrastructure and everything else going on, that let's get back into this. So all those...
We need more people that know how things work and how to fix them, right?
Absolutely.
That number's shrinking every day.
Yep.
Go ahead, Dee.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but speaking of college, so what are your thoughts on college for somebody that's in middle school, high school, not really sure what they want to do?
Well, I think it's from my standpoint, my wife's standpoint, it was always our job as a parent to do career exploration for our kids, give them different directions, show them different things that we can do. I was privileged enough to help out at an event called Construction Career Days here in the Capital Region, which we're trying to reinvigorate. And it was literally a field trip for kids to get on heavy equipment, operate backhoes, operate skid steers, work with bricklayers, work with carpenters, and get their hands dirty, but figure out, well, maybe this is for me. Maybe this is something we can do. But at the same time, you talk about different careers and different options and let your kids decide from there. My son knew early on college probably wasn't going to be for him. And he went the electrical route, did BOCES electrical program, and loved it. And he went from a kid who was shooting D's and C's in school to going to BOCES, but still had to work back with his home school on classes just like everyone else. But I think because now he had direction and knew what he wanted, he started shooting A's and B's back in homeschool. His math scores all jumped. Everything started jumping because now things are making sense. Things are like, okay, now I have something in front of me to shoot for. Mm-hmm. He didn't really have that before.
That's great.
Where my daughter went right to college, just graduated from Oneon to environmental sustainability and wants to save the world. So we'll see how that goes. So.
No, it's very cool, and we love BOCES.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
Great programs.
Great programs.
Yeah.
And I just heard the other day the Capital District BOCES program, which I know BBL just completed their brand new campus, huge new campus to make room and space for different programs. They already have a need for more. There's more kids on wait lists.
Oh, no kidding.
In schools around the Capital Region that want to get in.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, and they said, geez, we might have to look at expansion again, and the districts have to realize that. And I think it was, I know for a fact, I went to Voorheesville, that the guidance counselors were kind of pushed to get you to go to that 4-year college. It was kind of like 95% of all our graduates went on to 4-year colleges.
Right.
I can tell you, from my standpoint, there were maybe 85 kids who graduated from my class. I'd say half of them finished in 4, maybe 6 years. Mm-hmm. The rest of them either dropped out, went to 2-year, went into the military, did something different. Yeah. It's not for everybody.
It's not.
I think it's our job to kind of give them the direction of multiple routes and see what they choose at that point.
Yeah, and kids, there's so many differences in kids, and like we talked about it, where like my daughter, similar to your son, right, where she's not a good student at school, and then she went to BOCES though, and like I think she got through high school because of BOCES. Like now she's going to college, and again, there was no college talk until she started going to BOCES, and then BOCES kind of gave her the confidence, I guess, and also the passion in something. outside of like, the classes she was taking at school. So it was just a great program. Does a lot of good for kids, for sure.
It is. And it teaches, as the parents see that and see the benefits for the kids, that they start to realize these are huge. And there's huge potential. I don't think anybody realized. I mean, I always give the example to a parent. I said, when's the last time you could get a plumber to your house? I mean, or an electrician. And then what happened by the time they just came to diagnose, how much did that cost you? I mean, so you think these jobs aren't great careers. They're phenomenal careers.
Yeah. That's what we say all the time. Plenty of millionaire plumbers out there.
Absolutely.
I just got a call last night. My uncle had a backup at his house. He goes, "You know any plumbers?" I said, "Yes, we do."
We know a few. So what kind of companies? So I know that like you've mentioned a couple, but like DA Collins and MLB. Now, is it only large contractors that you typically are finding are members, or is it all different sizes?
Yeah, it's all different sizes. There's a firm which I think you, if you haven't spoken with her before, Hoosick Valley Contractors.
Okay.
Stephanie Wiley is a woman-owned business. She took over the company from her father, has been in the business since she was a little girl, spent time on Saturdays in that office with her dad. And she struggled for a little while because she was a woman-approved business by the state of New York. Mm-hmm. And they came back in, sent in some random person and said, well, because she didn't have an engineering degree, they took that away from her. They took away that designation from her. And she's like, wait a minute, I run this company. This is not me and my husband, but I've been here since I was a little girl. This was my father's. I took it over. And everybody in that company vouched for her, and they still took the designation. She finally had, with help of attorneys, went after the state, and they fortunately gave it back to her designation back.
What a weird thing to do.
That whole program needs a lot of work.
Absolutely. I mean, they don't seem to understand what goes into running a business, and just because somebody doesn't have a degree in civil engineering or construction management doesn't mean they can't run that company. And they know. She knows every detail, every estimate, every project that they do. It's because she's not out there swinging the hammer. They think, oh, she doesn't run the company. I'm like, that's not how this works. This is, she's a general contractor. She needs management. She needs, So, I think you should definitely have Stephanie on. She's
would love to.
Phenomenal. But they're a small general contractor, very small regional, in the Troy area. And they do different amounts of work, different sizes. So it's all different size firms. I mean, you've got Turner Construction, who's probably the largest in the world. I think General Contractors, a member. They've been a member for a long time. They started in New York City. I mean, their first project in the 1800s were subway stairs. I think that was their first project. They grew, obviously, but the companies like Gilbane and again,
another huge one.
Big, companies, Consigli, all these other companies that are big firms are members, but we have just as many small companies as well. Well,
that's, I was thinking about it when I was on your website, and I was thinking about that question of like, I wonder who they work with, just because, the smaller, everybody obviously needs education, right? But the smaller firms, I just feel like sometimes it's going to be a lot harder for them to seek it, to find it, to be able to dedicate time to it. So it's, but so important in order for them to grow as companies and, scale and do it, faster and with less hiccups than trying to, learn all those lessons on your own. So that's awesome.
The key is they have to they need to be, they don't have to give us a ton of time, but they have to give back as much as they, if they're going to join and just sit back and just read our newsletter, there's no reason. We're at the point where you don't need to send us a check anymore. You're not engaging. You need to get involved. And I'm sure Stephanie will be one of the first people to tell you that she's attended. She comes to our summer meetings. She hears from these speakers, and I'm sure she's gotten a lot out of being a small firm participating and trying to get involved. So
I can't wait to ask her about that.
It's tough. Same thing. She's got young kids. She's trying to be a mom and run a business and do both. And
fight New York State apparently as well.
Exactly. And it's a tough haul, but she did it, and she's doing well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, do a lot of your members, do they get together, network at all, and share best practices, that type of thing?
They do. Yeah. And some of them they do separate groups where they get into peer groups. Some of them do peer groups on a national level. Some of them have realized some of these organizations will do a peer group where they'll meet up with the same size firm that does similar work, but they're from Chicago, so they don't compete. So they're really working with different companies around the country that are the same size, try to share best practices with each other, try to help each other out. And I think one of the things you'll see even in New York, we have some of the smaller firms that end up joint venturing with some of the bigger companies because they come to AGC events and they meet people.
Yeah,
realize
that's great.
We've got firms that are living, they work out of Orchard Park in New York, and next thing you know, they connect to a Saratoga Eagle Beverage, so they're in Saratoga building warehouses for them, and they call our members in Albany and say, listen, we've never worked in Albany, can you help us find some subcontractors, try to find it, and they do. They're more than happy to reach out and help them. So
I'm such a huge fan of like the peer-to-peer networks across the country and being able to, like you said, like best practice with people that aren't your competitors. They're doing the same thing that you're doing, but in different markets. I've been involved in a couple different industries that I was fortunate enough to have that with, and it was amazing. One of which was snow and ice, right? And so we used to go out, SIMA, if you're familiar with Snow and Ice Management Association, we'd go out every year. They had their 4 days of snow. Of course, it was in the summer. And but it just what a great thing. And then throughout the year we would do different, whether it was build-a-bid workshops and how to basically just some of the skills were things that you just would think everyone should know before having a company, but at the same time how to properly measure a parking lot and attach a dollar figure to that you're actually going to make money on and not go out of business on kind of thing. It was great. And God, that was 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And I still have people that I'm friends with. And actually today's Dave Gallagher's birthday. Happy birthday, Dave. He's one of those people. So, what a great thing that is, and to be able to take advantage of that. So that's awesome.
It's important. And we realize that we start to do, association has realized as well, because we were talking about having a woman-owned business here in the state. Minority goals are a big thing in the state. They keep pushing this 30% number. They want 30% minority goals on projects, public projects. And so we realized, rather than sitting here and fighting it, realizing it's an important thing, that we've been trying to do training education for small minority contractors. Because find a small minority contractor, they don't have an estimator. They're just trying to, it could be 3 people in the firm.
Right.
So one person's all back office, one person's trying to, manage the company, one's out.
They have an estimator, but it's the owner and also the person wearing 5 other hats as well.
Sitting at the kitchen table with their laptop trying to get so it's those things that we bring in the top bonding agents, top insurance agents, and talk with them about what you need to be looking at from your size standpoint, what you need to do, and the basics of estimating, the basics that kind of get the ball rolling. So the idea is rather than fight it, let's try to build the capacity rather than scream and yell about it and say these are crazy, which we do realize. I mean, you're in Watertown, New York, but 30% minority goals on a project, or Messina up on the Canadian border.
Sure.
You're not going to reach those goals, unfortunately. You're not going to get firms from Brooklyn traveling up to, Watertown to do work. So, we try to work with New York and try to realize it's an important thing to do. Try to grow a business, whether you're minority or you're anybody new trying to start a business.
Yeah. Do you find, or do you have any involvement with people that maybe aren't business owners, but they're just on the labor side or the skilled labor side? Like, do you get involved in that as well? Yeah,
we work closely. And I personally, I'm a management trustee with the New York State Laborers. So we do actually some collective bargaining.
Cool.
For AGC, does collective bargaining with the unions just on the highway side in upstate New York. So from Buffalo through Albany, we kind of stop around the Hudson Valley. There's other organizations that do South Hudson Valley in the city. But I'm a management trustee, so I represent management and, go to these trustee meetings with the laborers. And I sit on their health and safety committee. So it's sitting there and discussing issues and concerns that they have in the field and what the laborers deal with every day, day in and day out. And that was obviously huge during COVID, trying to make sure people were safe. And because luckily enough, construction was one of those critical, professions that we can continue working during COVID.
Very cool. So many things. So what is, let me just make sure I'm not keeping you too late here. What's it look like to join? Like what, from a member standpoint of, I'm a small contractor, I got half a dozen employees,
sure,
and I want to get involved. Like what do I do?
Yeah, I mean, we get engaged. You can certainly reach out to us. Our membership director would sit down with you and try to show you the benefits and look at it. And we're a big enough association that if it's not going to be a fit and it's not going to work, we'll tell you. We're not here to collect your money, because what happens is we collect dues from somebody for 1 year and then they leave the next year.
Yeah,
we kind of teach you how to get engaged, what kind of events, and you let us know, what are you looking to do? Who are you looking to engage with? And we'll say, okay, come to this event, come to this networking event. Some could just be cocktail receptions, some could be basic. Most are usually a combination of some education and networking together. And there's different events that you can do. We do them all around the state. It's based on the region that you're in. And if you're looking to get into another region, we can introduce you to contractors in those regions. And we do different regional meetings, so you can attend each one that you want to meet more people and get involved. So it would be just reaching out to our membership director and signing up. And it's all, as a general contractor, there's volume dues, so it's based on how much work you put in place, and it maxes out. It gets to a point, but we kind of ramp you up over time. The volume dues kind of increase with time, but so that's kind of how the association works.
Do you have any events coming up in the near future? Or?
Well, we have a lot of different. We have, luckily enough, we have a winter meeting coming up. It's a little south of here in a Caribbean island called Grand Cayman. So there's that's one little spot you can go to.
How do I go there?
Yeah, right.
Do I get that trip free with membership?
We actually have about 200 people coming to that meeting.
Nice.
And it's something the first time we've been back to since COVID. We haven't, we've kind of stayed on the continent of the U.S., not knowing travel restrictions. And so that's the first time that they have that one coming up. But we have a number of different things. We actually have next week on Tuesday, one of the biggest issues we deal with now in the construction industry, unfortunately, is suicide. We are probably one of the highest, professions in the country of more suicides known than any other industry. We're very, very high. We have an event on Tuesday that we're actually co-sponsoring with the New York State Department of its OGS, Office of General Services. We're doing a program at SUNY Albany on that. We actually have a speaker coming in from the Midwest who is a construction superintendent, but he really engaged his people right off the bat, saying, we're such a tough industry. We always kind of just say, suck it up and move on, and it's kind of, you do your thing. You can't do that anymore. That's not how we need to be. We need to communicate, talk, and understand what people are going through. And it's, it's one of those things that we've tried to engage more and more companies to get involved with.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, that's crazy. I had no idea.
I never knew that.
Excuse me.
What's I know we're out of time, but I had so many other questions from like we were talking about other associations, locally, obviously, so there's a few, but of course, across the country, there's tons of them, right? So like, how do you play in the sand with, like the NESCAs of the world and other,
We do a lot of joint training with them, education, with NESCA. We do programs that we can, benefit both of our members. Could be on basic insurance laws, and other programs. We do a great event at the Century House called Meet the Estimators with them. And what that is our general contractor members, it's got to be almost 30 firms will do kind of trade show booths. General contractors will set up around the room, and all the subcontractors come in and just meet them. And it's usually their estimating teams. So most of the time you're getting a phone call from a general contractor or an email saying, can you bid on this project? Well, you never get to meet those people. It's always back and forth on the phone or, via email or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, now the estimating team's there in the room. So you're getting to meet all these people for the first time. And it turns into a great interaction between these people and realize, wow, I've been talking to you for 10 years. I've never even met you before. Next thing you know, it's a good connection. So, and the organizations are great organizations. Again, not just a regional, but they're all across the state, all across the country. And a lot of them work interactively with each other and help each other out on joint programs. Of course, we're going to disagree on certain things, as a general contractor and a subcontractor, but that happens, but it's part of doing business. It's part of, interacting, but trying to make sure we create a good team for the owner. So that's our final goal.
Do you find that you share some of those members? Is that a common thing where you have someone that might be in NESCA and in AGC? Yeah,
we do. Yeah, a lot of the vendors will be joint members of different organizations. A lot of the same attorneys, same insurance people are all connected for both subcontractors and general contractors. And we have even just some of the subs are members of ours as well. So they see the benefit of going to both events and interacting. So it's,
for the listeners, NESCA, it's Northeastern Subcontractors Association, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Great organization. They've been around for years. A gentleman by the name of Mike Meisenheimer is executive director there. And we do a lot of programs. One of the big things we've been doing more of, we have a group called the Construction Leadership Council, and it's a separate committee of just young contractors. So it's young contractors saying, you know what, we want to do our own stuff separate from our bosses. We want to do, separate networking events, hear from different speakers and leadership and skills that maybe they have already learned. We want to hear more of that. So we do a lot of stuff with NESCA, do a lot of joint events, networking events just to talk.
Yeah.
And the subcontractors love it. GCs get to meet new subs and exchange business cards, that type of thing. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what's better than commiserating with people in the field that you're in and having a couple of cocktails,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. Right.
Oh, I had one last question, and I think I'm going to forget it, though. Oh, so obviously in the education part of things, that's where you spend that. You've done that your entire career? You've been on the education side? Or
I've been, I started actually in the banking world when I first got out. I went to Siena College, got a degree in marketing, management, and finance, and came out and started working in the banking world. And was there with, it was at the time with All Bank locally, which became Charter One.
Bank.
Charter One came in from Ohio, bought them out. And then Citizens Bank came in and bought out Charter One. So Citizens, of course, is all across, well, I would say they're probably more northeast out of Rhode Island. I know at the time I thought they were just a small bank. Little did I know they're owned by the Royal Bank of Scotland. So, they're much larger than I thought. But so I was in that industry for a while and then I moved into computers and software. And it was actually a company that was doing timberline estimating software and a company called Prolog, which was project management software. And then was there for a few years right during Y2K, and they thought I was the greatest thing in the world because I was an inside salesman. I just scared the crap out of everybody saying, you need new software or it's
Y2K.
It's all going to crash. It's all
oh my God, I remember that actually.
So they're like, wow, you're selling like crazy. I said, well, guess what? It's selling itself because everybody's scared. Has to be compatible. Compatible. And so I did that for a couple of years, and then AGC position came, and it was something I've always been engaged with. My stepfather was a home builder, and it was just something I always connected with builders. Always knew that I wanted to be involved in the industry somehow. So with that background, and then and being with AGC and being in the education and component and helping businesses learn how to be successful, if you were gonna give one piece of advice about how to be successful as a general contractor, from what you've seen, sure,
what do you think it would be?
I'd say especially the firms that are just starting. Find a good attorney, good accountant, those two, and make sure they know your industry. Mm-hmm. I know plenty of attorneys that just can tell you they can handle any contracts. They can handle. If you find the right firms, of course, you may pay a few bucks more per hour for a good attorney that knows construction contracts. But a good accountant, a good attorney can change everything for you because they can give you business advice most of the time that's going to help you through some of those issues because they have experience. If they've litigated or dealt with issues when it came to, dispute resolution. They can get you through that sometimes without ever stepping foot in a courtroom. And so that's a big part of it. I think it's an important step. Not that that's an education for construction per se, but just keep learning. Just that's going to be the key is just to keep getting more new information and take some chances. I mean, that's contracting in general. That's
contracting and business ownership.
In general.
And I mean, I'm sure you have a ton of contacts, as far as CPAs and attorneys. We've actually, we're doing some content pieces on the back end of the website. So we'd love to maybe, get some recommendations for you. Anybody who would want to come on and do more of an educational piece for the listeners.
Sure. Yeah, there's some great attorneys in the Capital Region here. I think being in the Capital kind of helps knowing what you have here in the area and dealing with the state, of course, is a big part of that. But private ownership is
so easy to work with. What are you talking about?
So it's there's a lot of great resources there.
So if people want to learn more about AGC, if they want to learn more about the education opportunities and the other things that they can utilize with membership, how do they find you guys?
They just go to AGC NYS. NewYorkState.org, O-R-G.
.org, okay.
Yep. And then our national is just AGC.org. That's out of Washington, D.C. So,
do you guys do the social media stuff?
We do.
Oh, you do? Okay, so they can learn more about you there too.
Yep, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. We've got them all up there. You'll see event photos and projects and information. We do a lot of work locally trying to advocate for projects as well. So
that's awesome.
Very good.
So you looked like you were about to say something.
No.
Well, Brendan, we really appreciate you coming on, and taking time to drive up here, and thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for coming.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
And thanks everybody for listening. Don't forget to, as Derek was talking about, check out the website. We've got the blue collar blueprint on there, and we're trying, guys. We're trying to add some more content to it and give you some more resources. And real quick too, I just wanted to give a shout out to MLB one more time and thank James Dawsey and Chloe and Kelsey and Eric and all the people over there that have been supporting us and recently gave us a big check to help sponsor some kids down at HVCC, and same thing for Luke Michaels at the Michaels Group. He also helped us out, gave us the ability to give some money to some students and help them pay for books or tools or whatever it is. So just want to say thanks to those guys, and thanks everybody for listening, and
see you next time.
Share the show.
Share the show.